Mr. Speaker, it's taken 20 years to build the Institute of Diagnostics on Ellis Avenue, an international leader in global research on diagnostic imaging and a world famous for its work on magnetic resonance. The team of scientists is second to none. This has led to an extraordinary burst of new innovations and new companies. The Conservatives have put an axe to this jewel in Manitoba. The scientific team is being dismembered. And yet the Premier has done little to stand up to this Conservative onslaught. Why isn't the Premier standing up publicly for Manitoba?
I want to thank the member from River Heights for the question, because it makes the obvious point that the damage being done to the Biodiagnostic Research Center on Ellis Avenue is quite serious. There is, as the member knows, and if he doesn't, I'll inform him now, there is active lobbying going on within the community, government supporting that, the business community supporting that, the scientific community supporting that. We recognize the value of the Biodiagnostic Research Center. Some of the magnetic resonance imaging that they've done has resulted in new products being developed in Manitoba, which are now sold all around the world under the name of IMRIS. It's a very important center. There is a widespread community effort going on to support the continuation of that effort. Our government's in discussions with federal ministers with respect to that. We expect to see some improvements in that decision, which will allow for more possibilities to save that institution in Manitoba.
Mr. Speaker, the Institute of Diagnostics is to magnetic resonance imaging in today's scientific and industrial advances what the Avro Arrow was to Canada in the 1950s. In the 1980s, when the CF-18 contract was sent elsewhere, there was a huge outcry. Yet today, when an incredible team of scientists is split apart to be dispersed like Avro Arrow engineers around the world, there's virtual silence publicly from this Premier. We have an amazing scientific team at the Institute of Biodiagnostics, a team which spawned the rapidly growing companies IMRIS and Novadak. Why has the Premier not been active in enlisting public support in an effort which is so important to the future science and economy of our province?
Is showing on this matter. We know that the federal government made a decision to shut that institution down. That's very unfortunate. There have been representations made to the federal government with respect to the value of that institution, the scientists there, and the scientific outcomes which have generated the commercialization of MRI technology, which is now being used around the world in health facilities. I can tell the member that our government is working very closely with members of the business community that are making these representations. We have some early indications. There may be a softening of that position by the federal government to essentially shut that institution down. I appreciate the member raising the question. We will continue to work on a constructive approach to ensure that institution plays a role in Manitoba. It would be helpful if the members of the opposition would also raise their voices on this matter. They claim to have a very close relationship with the federal members of Parliament. If they would exercise their influence on behalf of all Manitobans with the federal members of Parliament, we could even make more progress on that, Mr. Speaker.
3 years ago, Ian Smith, Director General of the Institute of Biodiagnostics, received an Order of Canada. The Federal Minister, Tony Clement, said, Dr. Smith is an outstanding example of how a highly motivated scientist can move innovative research discoveries into the public realm for the good of all Canadians. He continued, the Government of Canada is committed to supporting researchers and innovators like Dr. Smith who conduct world-class research, improve the lives of Canadians, and promote Canada's place in the world. Today, the Clement Harper government is dismembering the very institution, and the Premier isn't standing up publicly. When will the Premier leave the public effort, which is so vital, to stand up to the Harper government against the dismembering of some of the most important science, research, and industrial development in our province?
Speaker, I see the member as expressing a great deal of passion about this issue. The reality is Tony Clement is the chair of Treasury Board. If he feels at the federal level, if he feels the Biodiagnostic Research Center is of such great value, he has the direct ability to do something about it. He has received, that federal government has received representations from the community of Manitoba, including the government of Manitoba, about the value of that center. We understand there's some reconsideration going on right now. We would hope that the members of the opposition who claim to be very closely associated with the federal Conservative government would raise their voices along with all the rest of the members of the community, the Manitoba Business Council, the Premier's Economic Advisory Council, members of the government, members of the scientific community. If we all join together, our chances of saving that centre in Manitoba would be dramatically increased. We look for their leadership along with us on that matter, and I thank the member for River Heights for raising the issue once again.